All right, let's talk about a part of your business exam that seems super easy but trips up so many students, the simple 2-mark definition question. We're going to crack the code on how to nail these every single time. You know that feeling, right? You see a question that starts with define the term and you think, awesome, 2 easy marks in the bag. But when you look at the examiner reports, you see students are just throwing these points away again and again. So the question is, why? And, more importantly, how do we make sure you don't? Now, you might be thinking, come on, it's only 2 marks. What's the big deal? But just think about it. If you have 5 or 6 of these across an entire exam paper, those little 2-mark questions really start to add up. Losing them can literally be the difference between a B and an A. These aren't just throwaway marks. They are the foundation of your final grade.
So let's treat this whole thing like a puzzle. There is a very specific logic, a system for getting both marks every single time. And today, we're going to piece it all together so you can solve it without even breaking a sweat, even under exam pressure.
Okay, here's the absolute secret. And honestly, this applies to the whole exam, not just these little questions. Success isn't just about being able to recite every definition from your textbook. It's about understanding the rules of the game. What is the examiner actually looking for when they're deciding whether to give you 1 mark, 2 marks, or 0?
And to understand those rules, we've got to go straight to the source, the official mark scheme. This is basically the examiner's cheat sheet. It lays out exactly what gets a point and what doesn't. So let's decode this thing.
The very first thing you need to get your head around is something called Assessment Objective 1, or AO1 for short. It's actually really simple. AO1 is just a pure test of your knowledge. That's it. The examiner is just saying, hey, show me you actually know what this term means. There's no analysis, no evaluation, just pure, simple knowledge.
And this is where we find our first massive clue. Just look at this table. See how the command word define totally stands out? For the bigger questions like explain or assess, you're juggling a bunch of different assessment objectives. Knowledge, application, analysis, you name it. But for define, nope, it is only AO1. Nothing else, just 2 marks available for pure knowledge. Understanding this is the key to solving the entire puzzle.
So now that we know it's only about knowledge, let's look at the 3 most common traps that students just keep falling into according to the people who mark these exams. These are the things you absolutely have to avoid. I mean, it doesn't get much clearer than this, does it? This quote is taken directly from an official teacher training session with a lead examiner. They're practically begging teachers to tell their students, stop giving examples. And this points us directly to the single biggest mistake students make. And here it is, trap number 1. Giving an example, especially one you've pulled from a case study, it will score you 0 marks. Why? Well, because giving an example is what they call application, or AO2. And as we just saw, there are no AO2 marks up for grabs in a define question. So it's a complete and utter waste of your time and your brain power. Okay, trap number 2. This one feels kind of intuitive, but it is a guaranteed way to lose marks. The official guidance is crystal clear. Do not just repeat the words in the question. Saying something like, venture capital is capital from a venture doesn't actually define anything, right? It just restates the term. It shows absolutely 0 understanding, and it gets, you guessed it, 0 marks. And the third and final trap is just being too vague or wishy-washy. See, the mark scheme is structured really simply. A full, complete understanding gets you the full 2 marks, a partial or incomplete understanding gets you 1, and a vague answer that doesn't really say much gets a big fat 0. You have to be precise and complete. And here's a perfect side-by-side comparison. On the left, that weak answer, it's a classic trap number 2 mistake, just repeating the words. But look at the strong answer on the right. This is taken right from a real mark scheme. It does something totally different. See how it's built in 2 distinct parts? That is the secret we've been looking for. So we've seen the traps, we've seen what not to do. Now for the good bit, the solution. There is a simple, foolproof formula you can use every single time to make sure you walk away with both of those precious marks. Here it is. It's a simple 1 + 1 structure, a 2-part answer. First, you give a clear, basic definition. That's your first mark, locked in. Then, you add a second piece of information, a second point that develops or expands on that first idea. And boom, that's your second mark. Simple as that. So let's go back to that strong venture capital answer from before. Now you can see the formula perfectly in action. Part 1, a method or source of finance to fund a business. There's your first mark. Part 2, where the risk is greater for the investor. That's your second distinct point and your second mark. Easy.
And this isn't a one-off. The pattern holds for every single defined question. Here's another official example for product portfolio. Part 1, the range of products or services, that's 1 mark. And Part 2, that is sold or produced by a business. There's your 2nd mark. It's the exact same 1 + 1 structure. Once you see this pattern, you really can't unsee it.
So why does this 2-part formula actually work? Well, it's because the official Pearson guidance says your answer has to be fully developed to show an accurate understanding. Just think about it. A single, simple little point isn't really fully developed, is it? You need that second element to prove to the examiner that you have a complete and accurate grasp of what you're talking about.
Okay, let's bring it all home. We've broken down the problem, we've decoded the mark scheme, we've identified all of the traps, and now we have the foolproof formula. Let's boil all of this down into a simple set of rules you can take with you right into the exam hall. Here they are, your golden rules. You need to burn these into your brain. Rule 1, your answer absolutely must have 2 distinct parts. Rule 2, never, ever, ever give an example. Rule 3, do not just repeat the words from the question. And Rule 4, keep it short and accurate. You don't need to write a whole paragraph. You just need 2 correct linked points. That's all.
So there you have it. The code is officially cracked. By understanding the system and not just the content, you can lock in these foundational marks every single time, guaranteed. And hey, if you can apply this kind of systematic thinking to a 2-mark question, just imagine what you can do when it's time to tackle those big 20 markers.